Draw 100 people during one soccer game? I guess that sounds fun. There are many variations of different social media art challenges that one can choose to partake in, and the challenge of the week that I volunteered to participate in is the 1 week 100 people challenge. The challenge is ran by citizen sketchers and it happened on the first week of March. The title of the challenge is pretty self-explanatory, in which you are tasked to draw 100 people in 1 week. The main goal is to get the act of practicing done instead of chasing that perfect and beautiful sketchbook page. And if you are a responsible artist and started drawing on the first day, you should ideally have around 15 to 20 sketches a day. However, I've always managed to find the worst way possible to go about any challenge, in which I ended up putting off until the very last day. So, my family had invited me out to a soccer game, and I am going to attempt to draw all 100 people in 1 day. So before we get into that, let's backtrack over here. Now, why are we doing this and why does this challenge exist? There are actually many benefits to people watching. You, for one, get to go outside and get away from your drawing desk. Nothing good comes out of being holed up in your room working all the time, all day long. 2. You learn how to observe the way strangers dress, how they walk, what they're carrying, or if they have a pet walking with them. 3. Always better than doom scrolling. Who wouldn't want to be freed from the shackles of the mini rectangle? 4. You're putting in mileage under the pen, a good opportunity to get good practice in. And finally, you also have a nice mini journal entry from the tidbits of your day. And in this case, as I mentioned before, I will be attending a women's soccer game, so there will be many kinds of people to draw. Now, most artists will bring a much fancier sketchbook and pen, but we all know that I am far from a fancy artiste. So I always have my field notes on my person at all time, and I also forgot to bring a nicer pen, so we will be using a field note and a random pen that I found in my purse. But the best drawing supplies are always the ones that you happen to have on hand. And since I needed to reap what I sowed, I know these drawings aren't going to be beautiful since I needed to focus on the speed in order to hit that 100 drawing quota. Now, I didn't film myself sketching since I was just way too locked in trying to hit that 100 number, but I did take a couple of photos of the field notes in the wild. Don't worry, I'll go over all of these sketches very shortly. But by the end of the 90-hour game, 90 hours? That's, oh my god. By the end of the 90-minute game, I managed to hit a total of 70 drawings. But then, it's still early in the evening, so I went to another hangout and finished the last 30 drawings over there. Drawing from the photos that my family took throughout the game. And here we go. All 100 drawings done in 1 day. When I used to do these types of people watching drawing, I would always try to capture every detail and attempt to get everything as accurate as possible. But since people move so fast, I would always lose track of the subject, for lack of a better word. And then the drawing would either be incomplete or it would just look like that horse drawing that was so clean and promising in the beginning and then just falls apart in the end. In the past, I would always see this exercise too overwhelming for a casual day out, and as a result, I wouldn't really think to bring my sketchbook with me at all. Even though in the back of my head, I know that the drawings are never going to be great, but it was just always that self-sabotaging expectation that I put on myself. But today, that's all changed. For one, I finally understood that gesture drawing isn't about the accuracy or how neat your lines are, but it's all about capturing the energy and feeling of the pose. When I used to carefully draw strangers, the final results will always end up super static and flat and quite frankly boring. But now, while the drawings here are super scribbly, they do a much better job exaggerating and capturing the energy. The shirt and the clothing may not have the details down, but the poses read well enough that even through the scribbles, you know what the person is doing. I've also learned a lot about time management. If it were up to me, I would allocate myself around 5 minutes per person, but we knew in this case I just absolutely could not do that. Even if I wasn't racing against the clock during the soccer game, I don't even think I can draw 500 minutes worth of drawing even on a good day. So with a 90-minute game, that did leave me with a bit less than a minute per person, which I knew wasn't realistic and was not gonna happen. But it did set an expectation that I just wasn't gonna get this done by taking my sweet time. In order to knock out this many drawings, there was just gonna be no room for perfection. As you can see here, each page had about 6-7 drawings on average, and I want to say each drawing was around 50 seconds to a minute and a half each. Some doodle turned out way better than it should have been considering it was done in an extremely short time span, and some drawings, passable. Also, bringing in a field note as opposed to a more fancier sketchbook takes the pressure off of making every sketchbook page beautiful. That's not to say my field notes are not fancy at all, but I did feel more comfortable in being my naturally messy and casual self with this notebook. So to be able to get as many people drawn as possible, I also tried not to get attached to any of the drawing and I just kept moving on to the next person. Even if there was a drawing that was just not working out, I would scribble it out and then try to quickly redraw it. The drawing now have much more energy, life, and character than if I were to try to copy the people one-to-one. Even the normal walking poses have a bit more character to them despite being extremely scribbly. But yeah, soccer games are great because not only were there so many players to draw from, like the runners, defenders, goalies, and even people warming up on the side, but there were also sports photographers, referees, field security, and even those guys selling those massive cotton candy sticks. At some point, there was a guy performing tricks with his tiny ass dog in the middle of the field during the halftime, which was great to watch and to draw from. Side note, I do have an ancient iPhone, so you'll have to excuse the potato quality. And also because this was a soccer game, it was a lot less awkward to draw and doodle people. When you are in a more intimate setting like a restaurant or a coffee shop, watching people like a hawk feels like you are creepy, to be honest. And being in close proximity of your drawing subject may raise the risk of getting caught, making eye contact with them. But in a big public event like a soccer game, the strangers are so far away so you won't accidentally lock eyes and make an awkward moment for both of you guys. And soccer players make just great subjects to draw. I would like to try this exercise again in a music performance or at an outdoor picnic one of these days. Doing this exercise really pushed me to stop judging my work and to just keep on drawing. Especially when ideas constantly churn in my head at like 100 miles per hour, that is so difficult to keep up. Being able to draw fast helps me capture my ideas on paper before I move on with my day. So even if this may look like a heap of scribbles, it's a very useful skill to have. Would I do this again in the future? Sure, why the hell not? I feel like if I were to do the challenge again, my hope is that my gesture drawings would have improved so my quick chicken scratch would look less like scribbles and maybe a bit more refined. The thing about these challenges is that you don't always need to wait until next year to do them, so maybe we'll see another attempt in the near future. And if I were to do this again, maybe I'll remember to take the actual footage of me drawing in the wild. Thank you for letting me take you on this very long-winded side quest. I'm going to rest my hand before it collapses and have myself a nice fat nap. Now you guys keep drawing and I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye!